Kathleen Donnelly, welcome to the Rocky Mountain Writer Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's fantastic. What an awesome announcement just to come across a random day opening Facebook and running into a thrilling announcement from somebody you've known for a while. And I know you've worked so hard, and I won't share your news, but what a cool deal to see. So tell us what you just found out a few weeks ago.
Well, thank you so much. A few weeks ago, I was excited to announce I signed my first book contract, my debut book, and with the help of my editor, Ella Marie Shoup, and we're under contract with it, and it'll get published next June in 2022.
And tell us the name of the publisher and tell us the title.
Yeah, so the title is Chasing Justice, and the publisher is Carina Press, and it's a romantic suspense.
And how did this all come about? Tell us the path to publication, just in kind of a nutshell. We'll get into probably some more details, but
Sure. I've been working on this book for a while. The Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers has certainly been a huge help with that, and learning just everything I can about novel writing. And I finished it up last year in 2020 and started querying it out and signed with my agent last August. And we sent it out on submission in January, and it seemed like things, for me, it seemed really quick. We signed the contract in June. So
yeah. So not too long even to find the agent, it doesn't sound like.
No, she was one of the first agents I queried, and she responded quickly and asked for the full manuscript. And within a month, she got back to me, and we spoke on the phone, and she shared her vision for the book and wanted to know if I had the same vision. And I felt like we were a good match, and I loved her ideas to edit and what she loved about the book. And so we signed, and the rest is history, as they say.
And we better mention her name if we can.
Oh yeah, her name is Ella Marie Shoup.
Okay, you mentioned.
You
mentioned that. You mentioned that at the beginning. I just wasn't clear that was the agent.
Okay, yeah.
Gotcha.
She's with the agency. Yeah.
Okay. And what kinds of things she asked if you just want to make sure your vision was aligned on the book. Did she put you through some changes after she signed you up?
She did. She sent me, before we signed contract, she sent me sort of what she saw as strong points in the book, and then what she saw as things that needed to be edited or changed, and a lot of it was character development. I've really enjoyed learning more about character development and just keeping that story moving forward. And so we went through a lot of the changes, dealt with those items, and I've really enjoyed the challenge. I've learned a ton. I'm looking forward to writing my next book and seeing if I can implement what I've learned.
Can you summarize some of her key points about character development in kind of an easy way, just to share?
Sure. Let me think here. So some of it was even in the relationship development between characters, digging deeper and knowing more about your character. Really, even if it's something you don't use in the book, just really understanding your character and having, some people call it the character sketch, and I have some things sketched down, but just digging deeper on how would the character react. And so that was a big one. Some of it also was making sure, like I said, that the story was moving forward. So I love writing descriptive scenes, and we live in this beautiful state, and so I love describing the aspen or the snow, mountains. Yeah. And she would say, "This is a really nice description, but in order to keep the story moving forward, we may want to cut this." And it was what I appreciated too was I felt like I could ask a lot of questions, and we could go back and forth and brainstorm ideas. There wasn't ever a feeling of this is how you're going to do it, and that kind of thing. So that was really nice too.
That's great. So how many drafts did you give back to her before she said it was ready for submission?
We did 3 edits before it was ready
Wow.
for submission.
That's
Yeah.
impressive. That's impressive. It really shows she's invested in the story.
Yeah, she really seemed to like the characters and really enjoyed the story. And the final edit was just a few little tweaks. I'd say the second edit was probably our biggest edit, and changing a few things at the end, which I appreciated her feedback, because when I finished the book, I thought, I don't know that this ending's quite here, but I don't know what to do with it. And she had some great ideas for the ending. So I feel like the ending's much stronger now. And so probably the second edit was our biggest edit. But
That's
yeah, I
great.
went through 3 total.
Great. Wow. Well, tell us the story. Give us a snapshot. What's Chasing Justice all about?
Yeah, Chasing Justice is about a Marine veteran who returns home from Afghanistan to Colorado to heal. She is dealing with some PTSD. She's a canine handler, and she unfortunately lost her dog to a bomb in Afghanistan. So she's come home to heal, and she's sworn off ever working a canine again. And she takes on a job as a Forest Service law enforcement officer with her best friend, and he has a canine, and they are out together and dispatched to some suspicious activity at a cabin, and it turns out to be a drug lab, and it explodes and kills her best friend and forces her to work the dog again. And they work together to figure out who killed him and why.
Wow. And where does this take place? Is it Colorado?
Yeah, it is Colorado. I created a fictional national forest. I called it the Pinot Grande National Forest. So I wanted fiction just because so many people know our national forests around here so well that I didn't want to worry about a lake or a river being in just the right spot.
Yeah. Very good. Well, I think we better quickly establish for those who don't know you that you are fully capable of writing about canine world, especially in law enforcement. So why don't you give us some of that background? Because some people might say, oh, another writer with another, protagonist with a canine companion, but you have some special background to bring to this story. So tell us about your background with working with dogs.
Yeah, thank you. I have worked with narcotics canines. We go into schools, they detect drugs, alcohol, and gunpowder. And I've worked I couldn't believe it, it's been 15 years now. And I've worked about 10 different dogs. And so I took a lot of that background. I'm not a law enforcement officer, but I do go into the schools. We work with a lot of school resource officers. And so I really enjoyed, I wanted the challenge of writing a book with the dog, just to work on showing the relationship, because it's a partnership that's hard to put into words. And so I really enjoyed writing this book. I also enjoyed learning more about law enforcement canines. They're just amazing animals, and the things they can do, it never ceases to amaze me.
So despite your own history and background with this, you had to do additional research?
I did. So our dogs are what we call single purpose dogs. So they are only trained to find narcotics. And so it's a very specialized training. Police dogs are dual purpose dogs. So they are trained to find they might have a specialty like narcotics or bombs. And then they'll be trained to track and apprehend. And apprehend is just a nice way to say they're going to bite the person. So when you see them hanging off the arm, that's apprehension. And they might also be trained to do evidence search. And evidence search just amazes me, because what an evidence search is say someone robs a store and they had a knife or a gun or gloves or something, and they're running away from the police, and they throw the knife in a bush, and then they might throw the glove off by a street or something like that. That dog can go into the area and find everything new to the area. And he can find, he or she can find that evidence and help build a better case against a suspect that way, as well as track the person, and if they need to, help the officer arrest the person. So they really are just amazing. The tracking dogs are just really fun to watch. So
Who did you approach? Did you have a network of folks in the law enforcement community that you could approach and say, I'm working on a novel, I need to learn about X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, I'm so fortunate. I have several contacts. One is our trainers with the drug dogs. We work with two different trainers, and they're both police officers. They've both worked police dogs, search and rescue dogs. They have bomb dogs. They have a extensive background. In fact, one of our trainers even has trained an accelerant dog. He did some work with that. So they were great about, I would call up and say, okay, we did a little bit of tracking once a long time ago, and this is what I remember, but what is this? What are you going to do in this situation? Or how are you going to work the dog in this situation? And they were just wonderful, helping me out. I'm also really lucky. I have a really good friend, Dave Lewandowski, who's a retired chief of police. And he's so patient. I'll text him and say, hey, can I call you? And he figured out pretty quick, oh, she's working on her book again. But his perspective was fantastic because with his background, he was never a canine handler, but he had a handler who worked for his department. So he brought in a different perspective. And, or even just on the legalities of search and seizure, I would say, this is what I want my character to do. And he'd say, well, you better get a search warrant.
Yeah.
And then we would talk. It was fun. I'd say, well, what if they don't have time? Or what happens if they don't get a search warrant, and so he's been great. And then we have another handler with our company who was also a police canine handler for, gosh, I want to say 10 years with the Fort Collins Police Department.
Wow.
And so she also put up with me texting her and calling her, or we'd go have a company lunch and I'd pull out my notepad and say, okay, I have a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
So I'm really lucky that I have those resources to go to.
That's fantastic. So you said it was a challenge to write the relationship between your protagonist and the canine world. Was it as hard as you thought it would be to try to capture on the page?
Yeah, when I got into it, it kind of was. And in fact, I'd be working schools, and some of the schools we just go and we do the work on our own. We don't have a principal with us. And I would stop and think, okay, how does this feel right now? Because it's a partnership. And the way I describe it in the book, the closest I came up to with it is that it's a dance. You learn to read each other. You learn to stay out of the dog's way. They have the lead. If it's the dance, they have the lead. And there's just a feel down the leash of vibration. And so I started trying to write things down when I was working too. Although it was kind of funny, one day I was making a bunch of notes for my book, and one of the principals came around the corner and he said, is everything okay? I said, oh yeah, I'm good. I think he was worried we had found a big stash or something because I was writing so much down.
That's great.
But, yeah, so it was tough to describe. I enjoyed the challenge, though, of trying to figure out how do you tell someone what this feels like.
Yeah, wow. Very cool. So I have to ask if it's not that there's just endless, but there's a few other Colorado writers who write with dogs in their books. And I think we know there's probably a couple more that I don't know, but Barbara Nicholas, well known. And I think last I checked, at least you were very good friends with Margaret Mizushima.
Yes. Yeah.
I think Margaret, that friendship is still intact.
Oh, yes. Margaret has been not only a dear friend, but just a great mentor for the publishing business too.
Yeah. She is very, very generous, and wow, has she done well, so well. What is she on book 7 or 8 now, I think?
I believe book 7's coming out.
Yeah.
So this is 7.
That's
Striking Range, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is I mean, obviously there's dozens of mystery writers who write books without canine companions. So, I guess the question is, why was there a special drive? Do you think you would have written a book without having a dog involved, or was it just that dog element that really drew you in to write? Have you always been wanting to write romantic suspense?
Yeah, I have a couple other story ideas right now that have no dogs in them, but I think I have a background not only in dogs, but I did some horse training too, and just I love the animals and how you can maybe incorporate them into a story. And for this book, what really got it going, I was working my dog and I made a handler error. We're human, it happens. And I looked back and I thought, oh my gosh, I totally screwed up how I worked her, and we lost the scent, and therefore we didn't find what we needed to. And we missed something pretty significant. So, and I felt bad because people were saying the dog missed it. And I said, no, this is not the dog. This was human error, not the dog error. I pulled her in the wrong direction. And so I remember I was driving home, and, you're upset over that. You feel you owe your dog your best. And I thought, well, gosh, what would happen if this was a military handler, or if this was, and those ideas and this character just came to me. And I thought, I would never want to work another dog again if handler error cost my dog, his life. And it just came strong. I went home and started writing down notes and ideas, and that's how the book came about.
That's great.
And so from there, but then I thought, well, there has to be a canine because she has to get back into it. So.
Right. Wow. And it's a romantic suspense. And we've heard a little bit about the suspense. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the romance, and how do you balance those two? I've always wondered how do you know to strike the right balance in a romantic suspense between both elements?
Sure. That's something I'm learning. That was something when you asked about what my agent, Ella Marie, some of the edits, she said, I feel like there's a romance here, and I feel like we can bring it out more and hit a slightly different genre. Because when I queried her, I queried it as a mystery. And which it is. I mean, it is a mystery suspense as well. But I said, yeah, okay, I'll give it a try. And I said, I've never written romance. I don't know, I know a little bit. I've read romantic suspense. And so she sent me a bunch of information on here's how you can develop that a little bit more. So along came this character, and she was right. He's in the background. He's a new deputy in town. He has his own past. And my main character, Maya, doesn't want to trust him and doesn't know if she should trust him. And so part of the book is about should she or should she not trust him? So, yeah.
Oh, very good. So did it feel like you obviously you like that suggestion to bring out the romance, mm-hmm. and you obviously feel like it's a better book in the end?
I do. I realized after she said that, I thought, I actually read a lot of romantic suspense. Like right now I'm reading a Sandra Brown book, and I think she's considered a romantic suspense or somewhere along in those lines. She's definitely in that thriller, but there's always a romance. And I thought, yeah, I kind of like that. And I just never thought about bringing it out more.
Yep. So with 11 months or so to go till publication date, what does the next 11 months look like for you getting ready for that? Is the publisher helping you at all? Are you starting to think about your own marketing plan and, getting a, virtual or bookstore tour going? What are you starting to think about?
Sure. The publisher so far they've been fantastic. They've answered questions, and I just filled out, I think they called it an art fact sheet, but it really is a lot of information that's going to go into marketing. And so I don't know their marketing plan yet, but I know from conferences and everything that the more an author can also just do on their own, the better when it comes to marketing. And I have a journalism background, so I actually am I might be the few authors, like not many of us, that actually enjoy. I'm looking forward to writing like a press release and doing some of that, but I'll get with the publisher and find out what their plan is, just so we can correspond with make sure it is clear with each other, and make sure I don't market somewhere they're already planning on it or something like that. And then I'm working on book 2. I'm going to start. We that's not under contract yet, but we're hoping they'll pick it up. So,
just real quickly, where were you a reporter? I'm curious.
Oh yeah, so I have a degree in journalism from CSU, and then I did some freelance writing. I have horses, and I did some dressage. So I did freelance writing for Dressage Today and some of the other horse magazines. And then I did some writing for the Berthoud Weekly Surveyor, which is little town newspaper work. So.
Oh, Berthoud's great. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it is good to have that ability to write your own press materials. So that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, I know that's your background too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, back to book two. After that little quick detour, is book two, how far along
Mhm.
is book two?
I have it basically, I'm getting the outline together and starting to write it. We're getting submission materials together to go ahead and send it in. And so hopefully they'll like it. There's a full synopsis, just everything to prepare for that.
Yeah. So you're going to go back to the same publisher, and hopefully they'll get behind it as well.
Yes.
Why
Yeah.
wouldn't they? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope they do. So
Yeah. That's great. Wow. So do you think this will be a 4 or 5 book series? Are you planning that far ahead? Or are you just going one book at a time?
I have a lot of ideas. I have probably 8 to 10 books ideas for this series, but it also probably depends. There's a lot of business side of things, it needs to come out and sell well. And, there's that side to it too. So I would love it if the series continued on for a long time, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. You must feel really good. I mean, a year ago, it sounds like you kind of were in the middle of the pandemic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
summer a
Yep.
year ago, and you just started, when you started looking for agents, sounds like you went through a process of who you wanted to sign with. You went through some research. You were not just spamming the world with your query letter.
Yeah, exactly. I did a lot of research on the agents. I had a list of agents that I'd met at conferences, and so of course they got queried. Ella Marie was a cold query. I was looking through, I signed up for Query Tracker, and they're a great resource for anyone querying. They can help you keep track of who you've queried to and find out more information. And so I would just go through, they have a database of agents, sort of like the writer's market has and all those. And I just would go out to the websites and start looking at other books they've published. And if I thought they were a good fit, and if I did, then I would go ahead and query them. So it was actually a cold query that worked on this in this case.
And fairly quick response too, as we've touched on, but that had to be encouraging right there.
It was, yeah, it was very exciting. Yeah.
That's great. So, I mean, this just, like you said, must feel pretty quick. A year ago, you were like, here's my finished book. I'm going to try to get it out in the world. And a year later, you've got a contract, and it must feel fantastic.
It does. I mean, it did. I'm thrilled at how quick it's gone. And the flip side is I think I was writing, this is my 3rd book that I've written. And I started fiction probably like 12 years ago. I decided I wanted to, I had been doing the journalism and the freelance, but I was like, I really want to try fiction. I want something where I can make up my ending and not, not be stuck to the real world facts. So this has felt quick, but there's also been many years of writing and learning. So
are the first 2 books that you shelved or temporarily shelved, are they worth pulling out and redoing, or were those practice novels?
I think the second one I might take a look at. I like the premise with that. The first one's definitely a practice novel. I don't know that it'll ever come out, but who knows? If it did, at least now I have a better idea of why it wasn't working. So
right. Very good. Can you just talk to us a little bit about sort of is it a daily writing process? Is it do you set a goal for the day or the week? When do you write? And are you a hand writer or on the computer?
I usually write on the computer, although when I'm brainstorming, I find I have to sit down and write by hand or even mind map by hand. And then what I try to do, my goal every day, I get up about 4:30 and my goal is to be at my desk about 5:15. And usually then, especially when schools are in session, I need to start getting the dogs out about 6:30 to 6 to 7, somewhere in there. so that I can get started with my day. And I've just found if I get up and write early and first thing and with a lot of coffee, then I can get it done. Because what happens is, you go out and you work schools, and then you come home and there's chores to do. And next thing you know, it's dinner time. And next thing you know, you're ready to go to sleep. And if I waited till the end of the day, I just feel like it wouldn't get done. So I get up most days that early. And sometimes if the dogs will let me write longer and I don't have schools I have to get to, I'll try to get in a little more. But they're funny. They know when they should go out, and they usually interrupt me, which you can't blame them.
Yeah, no, you can't. Definitely not a good idea. So about an hour plus every day, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like, yeah. Well, I am right there with you. When you look at your clock at 5:15, just picture I'm right there with you at the same time. The 30 plus years of that. That is, to me, that's just so, like, I feel so good about everything else that'll happen that day if I get that hour in. It's just so,
yes,
it's the base for the whole day, and it leaves me I leave little questions for myself about that I can think about the rest of the day. But it is, I really, I don't know, guard that time. I really look forward. I look forward to getting up early, because I'll know what I'll be doing, and I know it'll be quiet. I love that. Yeah,
I love that too. And you're right, the quiet is nice. And when it's still dark out, and even in the wintertime when the snow's falling or whatever, it's just a really nice time to be working.
Yeah, that's awesome. Fantastic. Very good. Well, this is all very exciting. Maybe we can catch up with you closer to publication date and see how things are going. You're not close. You don't have a cover yet or anything like that.
Not yet. I think the cover, I'm going to guess, just based on the sheet I return, that probably in the next month or two. And I'll definitely share it on Facebook and Twitter.
We'll be watching for that for sure. That's great.
Thanks.
Well, as we wrap up, as always, the last little bit is for you to have a chance to recommend another writer out there, somebody you'd like to give some exposure to. So now's your chance.
Sure. Oh gosh, there's so many great writers, but I have to give a shout out to Margaret Mitsushima and her Timber Creek Canine series. She does such a great job with the dog work. She's really done her research, and I was lucky enough to read the book that's coming out. I did a blurb for her as a canine handler, and I can tell you it's really good. So I believe that comes out September is my understanding.
And you mentioned the title earlier in the podcast, but remind me again.
It's Striking Range.
Striking Range, right.
Yeah.
Very good. Great title. As is Chasing Justice, and they kind of go together.
They kind of do. Yeah, they do.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Kathleen Donnelly, thank you so much. Congratulations to you on an awesome accomplishment. And we wish you lots of success, and we'll check in again with you real soon.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me on, Mark.
You bet.